HSM, back for another Sunday recap. We had a great Sunday this past weekend as we continued our I Am series, and we learned a lot about how we have a pretty patient God. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever jumped into maybe your car or in your parents' car and you forget to put your seatbelt on, and it starts beeping at you like mine just did. And we typically, well, hopefully you get frustrated enough that it kind of forces you to put it on. A lot of the times, though, our God is the same way, that while we're waiting on God to do something, He can start to get our attention with small little things. It maybe not be a verbal beeping noise, because that would be frustrating, but a lot of times whenever He is getting our frustration, we're like, stop it, God, fine, I hear you, I'll do it, or I just won't, and I'll ignore it. We saw in our story how Jesus, He makes another pretty big claim. He says that He is the resurrection and the life. This is pretty crazy because, well, dead people coming back to life is pretty wild. I don't know if you knew that. It's kind of crazy, okay? So Jesus hears about his friend by the name of Lazarus, and that's the brother of Mary and Martha, who, if you've grown up in church, you've probably known about. And he falls ill, and Mary and Martha, they send word to Jesus. Well, Jesus hears that Lazarus is sick, and he says, oh, wow, that's awful. I'm actually going to stay right here in the town that I'm in for another 2 days. If I was Mary and Martha, I would have been pretty furious, right? I would have been furious that Jesus chose to wait to come heal their brother. They wrote to him saying, Lazarus, the one whom you love, is sick. And they knew that Jesus could fix that. They knew Jesus could heal him right there in the moment, but instead Jesus chooses to wait. And I think sometimes, and a point that I made this past weekend was that a lot of the times whenever we're in a waiting season, we've asked God for something, we waste that season. That because Jesus didn't answer our prayer right in that moment, because we are so trained in getting things like instantly. And I think a lot of times whenever we don't get an answer from God, from Jesus in prayer, that we think that He is not listening to us. And a lot of the times we end up wasting seasons that we're in because we're just not patient enough to see what God is going to do. A waiting season isn't a wasted season. And you guys got to know that this morning. I think a lot of times if Jesus were to answer our every prayer instantaneously, that He would never be able to exceed our expectations. And Jesus, that's what He is about to do. He's about to exceed their expectations and what is about to happen with this miracle. Another point that I made was that just because you're delayed in a response from God, it doesn't mean you're denied. That a lot of times, once again, we think that we got to have something instantaneously, and so we get frustrated. We get impatient. We start to freak out whenever God's not answering something that we've prayed for. But a lot of the times, God is on His own time. He exists outside of time. He knows the bigger plan, the bigger goal, and a lot of times that's really hard to wait on. Whether it's praying for healing for your mom who's sick, maybe you've been praying for a friend to come to know Jesus, maybe you've been praying for yourself to be free from anxiety and depression, but yet nothing. But I want to just to really encourage you all this week that just because you're delayed in a response from God, it doesn't mean you're denied yet. Keep having faith. Keep having trust. Jesus, He shows up to the tomb and He says to roll the stone away. Lazarus, he's been dead for 4 days, which means his body is now decomposing. But also, too, the Israelites, they had a custom and a belief that past 4 days being dead, the spirit leaves your body. So you're like dead. But Jesus, He shows up on the scene, and so all the other Israelites, they knew this. Mary and Martha, they're still furious, they're weeping. Jesus is there crying too. He says to roll the tomb away, and they do. And Jesus says, Lazarus, get out. And lo and behold, Jesus, He resurrects Lazarus from being completely dead, completely gone, and he walks out of that tomb. I think for us today, I think we need a little bit of that. We need to kind of move away that stone in our own hearts and our own minds and let Jesus have the dead things in our lives to bring resurrection, to bring life forth. If you're already in Jesus, you've already made that decision. Well, he is constantly making you new if you're allowing him to do that. And so this week, what are those dead things that maybe you're holding on to that you need to give over to him and let him bring new life into? You may be waiting for a while for it, but he's going to bring new life into you. Maybe you've never made a decision to trust in Jesus yet, and this is your first time maybe hearing about this, because Jesus says he's the resurrection and the life, and that all comes to us one day too. Yeah, we're gonna die one day, but we can be resurrected again with Jesus if we believe in him whenever he makes his return one day. And maybe you've had a lot of just really bad stuff happen in your life. You're kind of frustrated with God. You don't know what to think about him, but yet deep down that Jesus is calling you into a relationship with him. And if you'd want to talk about that with us, with our team here, we would love to start that conversation with you, maybe lead you towards salvation and baptism and learning how to follow the ways of Jesus. And so just shoot us a DM, comment below, and we'll follow up with you. We would love to show you how great our God is. But that's your challenge for this week is 1, read John chapter 11. Read the whole story of Lazarus being resurrected. It's so good. But then maybe write down a few things that you're maybe waiting on God for, and just 1, specifically pray for them, but 2, tell Jesus in your prayer time that he is faithful and that you're going to trust in him. Sometimes we need some encouragement to say those words. But we love you guys. We hope you have a great week. Do those challenges. Let us know how it's going. And we'll see you guys this Sunday at 11 a.m.